Hey, good morning, afternoon. CAHSEE class, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some questions on the California High School exit exam. These are the released sample questions involving roots of numbers, okay? So, 34. The square of a whole number is between 1,500 and 1,600. The number must be between what? Now, when I use the word square of a number, what that means is you're taking a whole number and raising it to the second power. So let's try that. Let's look at this idea here. So a number, the square of a whole number, is between 15 and 1,600. Now the nice thing about this is that when I look at 1,600, if I just ignore the zeros, then what I end up with is 15 and 16. I like that. And so let's just look at 15 and 16 and see how that plays out. So 16 is a nice number because the square of 4 squared, is equal to 16, right? Because 4 times 4 is 16. So that's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about, okay, what number times itself equals 16? And that would be 4. Okay? And along the same lines, I could say, all right, so if I were to take 1,600, that would be 40 squared, okay, which is 40 times 40. And that's going to be 1,600. So I can tell that the upper limit, the max number that we could have squared would be 40. So 40 appears to be the max. Now there's 35 here. Now I wonder what 35 squared is. Is it a possible solution? Okay, so let's check that. So let's check 35. 35 squared would be 35 times 35. And the value of that can be found using a calculator, mental math, or rounding off. And so what I'd like to try is just good old-fashioned multiplication and multiply this through. And so this is what I have so far. So the value of 35 squared is 1225. And then the value of 40 squared is 1,600. And the answer must be between 1,500 and 1,600, and so these values here are similar in range, right? Similar in range, so I can assume now that the square of some number, we'll call it x squared, is going to give us some value that's between 1,500 and 1,600, if in fact x is between 35 and 40. So super. This is our answer, and that's how you work it out. Okay. Next question. 35. Between which two integers is the value of radical 61? Okay, and so I'm going to write radical 61, and above radical 61 I'm going to think of the next perfect square number. So I am thinking 8 times 8 is 64. So radical 64. And then let's think about 7, which is radical 49. And so I have these answers here. I've got 8 times 8 is 64. 7 times 7 is 49. And the value of radical 61 is going to be between, whatever that value is, I can call it x. X is going to be between 7 and 8. So this value, whatever it is, has to be between 7 and 8, since radical 64 is above radical 61, radical 49 is below radical 61, and so my answer is going to be between 7 and 8, since I have the minimum and maximum boundaries. So my answer is B. Next question. If the absolute value of x equals 3, what is the value of x? So when you encounter these symbols, these are called absolute values. And an absolute value, by definition, it's going to take any number. We'll call that number, how about z? Z, if it's negative, the absolute value of a negative number, you're going to have a positive answer. Okay? If z is positive, still have a positive answer. If z is 0, that is the only time when your answer is neither positive nor negative, it's neutral, it's 0. Okay. So with that said, let's think about this question. What possible values of x will give you an answer of positive 3? Well, here's one. Here's one possible value. If x is positive 3, out comes 3. One possible. And then the other possible value is, I'll write that down here, is if the absolute value was negative 3. Out comes a positive 3. You see that? And so inside your absolute brackets, you have a possibility of a positive value for x or a negative value for x. Okay, and so x equals either positive 3 or negative 3. And that would be B. Next question. What is the absolute value of negative 4? Again, this word means brackets. So by changing this, we have negative 4. What's the absolute value of that? Positive 4. So the answer is positive 4. And then the last question. Which number has the greatest absolute value? Again, the absolute value is going to take the number and give you an output. So if we plug in negative 17, what's my output? Positive 17. If you plug in negative 13, you get positive 13. Positive 15, positive 15. And of course, positive 19, out comes positive 19. So out of all these values, which one is greater? The largest number is 19. So the number that has the greatest absolute value is 19. A close second was this one. This was a close second. But again, it's less than 19, so it doesn't have the greatest absolute value. And that's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed this. Remember, study hard and learn a lot. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.